Hi, my name is Rachel McMaster, and I'm here today to talk to you about product cost and the elements it consists of. At the end of this presentation, you should have a better understanding of what makes up product cost and which category would be appropriate based on the role each expense plays. Now let's get started. Product cost can be broken into three sections: direct materials, direct labor, and factory overhead. Now I'd like to take a little closer look into each section. First, direct materials can be defined as any material that has an integral part of a finished product or a significant portion of that product. The smaller materials that have a minimal cost or don't become part of the finished product are called indirect materials. We'll discuss the indirect materials in the near future, but I'm going to list them in the following examples for future reference. The first example is a furniture manufacturer that makes wooden dining tables. The direct materials in this example would consist of the wood needed to make the tables. The indirect materials will consist of glue, screws, nails, any chemicals used to stain or seal the wood, and any lubricants needed to keep the machinery running. The second example is a manufacturing company that makes tires. The direct materials in this example would be raw rubber and brass-covered steel cord. The indirect materials, however, would consist of the chemicals used during the mixing process. Now, let's take a look at direct labor. This is the wages of the employees who actually make the product. Now, keep in mind the wages of the management staff, maintenance staff, and janitorial staff are classified as indirect labor because these workers do not actually play a role in creating the product. We'll discuss the indirect labor when we discuss the indirect materials next. But first, let me explain direct labor by offering these examples. Using the same manufacturing companies as before, the direct labor in the furniture manufacturer would consist of the employees responsible for cutting the wood, the employees responsible for assembling the tables, and the employees responsible for staining or sealing the wood tables. In the second example, the direct labor for the tire manufacturer would consist of employees responsible for mixing the chemicals and the raw rubber, and then the employees that are responsible for inspecting the finished product when they come off the assembly line. Okay, last but not least, let's look at factory overhead. Factory overhead includes the indirect materials, the indirect labor, and all other manufacturing costs. For both prior examples, the following can be listed in the factory overhead category: depreciation on factory equipment, factory rent or factory depreciation, repairs on the equipment, insurance on the factory building, property taxes, and utilities. So, in conclusion, there is a place for every cost incurred during the manufacturing process. The key is to remember if the cost is an integral part of the product. If the answer is yes, then it'll fall under the direct materials category or the direct labor category. If the answer is no, then the cost will fall under the factory overhead category. With that being said, I hope you now have a better understanding of what makes up product cost and how to classify each expense. Thank you very much for your time.